As the city shelter system buckles over the influx of migrants, officials coming up with new ideas on where to house asylum seekers. One new idea, the mayor suggested the city could pay people to house migrants in their apartments.
Outside a hotel on the west side, a number of migrants are refusing to leave after the city sent buses to take them to a new shelter in Brooklyn.
New York City is offering migrants a free one-way ticket to anywhere in the world. City's established a new re-ticketing center in Manhattan where asylum seekers can pick up the ticket.
New York City has begun paying migrants to leave the city. Now, this is shocking because it was New York that claimed they wanted migrants to come to New York. You may think I'm over exaggerating this, but here is the governor of New York saying it just a couple of months ago.
We want people to come here, despite where they came from or despite the circumstances that drove them to this country and to this state. We say you are welcome here. We are welcome with open arms, and we'll work to keep you safe. We'll not only house you, but we'll protect you. And the richness of the culture and the diversity and the food and the restaurants that we know are going to be coming because of these efforts are beyond measure. It's an extraordinary part of our story. And it's woven into the story of New York, and it makes us more vibrant.
So the governor of the good state of Texas started sending the migrants because New York requested them, right? Then all of a sudden, the New York mayor started calling the Texas governor racist for sending the migrants that they requested.
Another war of words between Mayor Adams and Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
CBS 2 political reporter Marcia Kramer reports that the mayor insists the migrant crisis is about race for the Republican governor.
Forced to cope with a flood of asylum seekers and with city services taxed to the max, Mayor Adams fired his big bazookas once again at Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He accused Abbott of using those coming to America as political pawns and, more explosively, of playing racial politics.
I cannot ignore the fact that Governor Abbott sent migrants only to cities with their black mayors, and is undermining our cities.
But the buses kept coming because migrants were being put up in hotels and given housing in places like New York and Chicago. The migrants even started demanding to be taken care of. For instance, in New York City, migrants refused to leave the hotels for 10 cities that New York City created. They believed they had the right to be put up in hotels. I'm not joking.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jessica Moore. We begin with breaking news. Some asylum seekers are pushing back on a plan to move them to a new shelter in Brooklyn. Some even refusing to leave the Midtown Hotel where the city has been housing them.
Even in Chicago, the migrants started complaining about having to sleep outside in tents. They demanded better, saying that their conditions were like being in concentration camps in World War II. That's what they said. Listen to the clip.
I am with United Giving Hope, which is a non-for-profit organization that serves humanity beyond borders. Today, as a citizen of the United States of America, knowing how great our nation is, knowing how rich we are in many aspects, and knowing the values that we have as Americans, this is unacceptable. Inappropriate treatment of human beings. And if we want to look at history in America and in general what has been taught to us, there was a leader in Germany years ago, and his name was Adolf Hitler. And he came into office for a few months and he created concentration camps. This is not the exact same thing, but it's very much a parallel of taking human beings and telling them that they are less worthy of being allowed to simulate into our society. This is not the answer of herding them into a tent city.
And let's not forget the protests in the streets by New Yorkers over how much the city was spending on the migrant crisis. They're throwing punches at each other.
A demonstration over the ongoing migrant crisis quickly turns violent. Protesters throwing punches, kicking, even choking each other. This chaotic scene unfolded at the doorstep of Gracie Mansion on Manhattan's Upper East Side. The NYPD made several arrests.
You know, one thing I always find interesting about stories like this is how the mainstream media is essentially ignoring this story. Check this out. This is Ground News, and this is a story that this video is about: one-way plane tickets being offered by NYC to migrants. And here on Ground News, you get to see how 59% of the coverage of this story is right-wing sources. Essentially, the left is ignoring this whole controversy. And another thing I love about Ground News is that you get to also see how the migrant crisis is being portrayed in the various media sources, depending on who's covering it. As an example, if you look at NBC, they're calling them migrants. But if you look at Fox News, they're calling them illegal immigrants. Which do you think is a more accurate description of this migrant crisis? Now, finding unbiased and well-rounded coverage can be challenging when news organizations are swayed by their corporate interest. Look at this story, for example. Now, this is why I use Ground News. Now, I have a great deal for you. Subscribe through my link and get 30% off unlimited access before November 15th, 2023. Go to ground.news/Nate to get this amazing deal. Now, I use Ground News every day to see what I'm missing, and some of my most viral stories have come from Ground News and what the media is not telling you. On Ground News, you get coverage details, story summaries and comparisons. You get articles, bias distribution, who owns the source, how factual is it, and my favorite feature, the blind spot, where you get to see if stories are being overreported or underreported by the left or right wing. Now, go to ground.news/Nate for 30% off unlimited access. Ground News is an amazing source to help you get around the media bias, and I hope you'll check them out. And thank you to Ground News for sponsoring today's video. Now, it became so bad in New York that the mayor said this migrant crisis will destroy New York City. He said it more dramatically than that. Listen to him.
Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month. One time we were just getting Venezuela. Now we're getting Ecuador. Now we're getting Russian-speaking coming through Mexico. Now we're getting Western Africa. Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City.
So, what's New York supposed to do? They wanted people to come, and they came. Well, New York said, let's start thinking about this rationally. Let's start thinking about it like if we were the governor of Texas. So, New York started shipping migrants out of the city on buses. Take a look.
Now, ready or not, they've started busing migrants to upstate counties. But this is already receiving major pushback from local leaders. And now this battle heads to court.
Then the mayor of New York City, he got a better idea. He said, hey, we're close to Canada. Let's start sending migrants to the great country of Canada.
5 times a day, a Greyhound bus rolls into Plattsburgh, New York. But for many on board, their final destination is Roxham Road, the nearby illegal border crossing into Quebec. As the New York Post first reported, New York City is getting inspiration from places like Texas and Arizona and busing migrants out. Mayor Eric Adams told a local Fox station migrants are inundating his city, so his administration is paying for their bus tickets to leave.
We found that people had other destinations, but they were being compelled only to come to New York City, and we are assisting those who seek to go somewhere else. Some want to go to Canada, some wants to go to warmer states, and we are there for them.
And then lastly, the city said, well, hey, listen, we're going to do this. We'll give any migrant a one-way plane ticket to any destination of their choosing. If you want to leave New York, we're going to pay for it. Now, this is hilarious since the mayor essentially called the governor of Texas racist for busing migrants across the country. Now, that's exactly what he's doing. So is he the racist? Now, New York has even gone farther. It's literally warning migrants not to come to New York. Here are some flyers that they're sending out across the southern border to make sure migrants get the message.
New York City is now planning to send flyers to the southern border, urging migrants not to even come there. The flyers saying there's no guarantee the city would be able to provide shelter and that housing is very expensive. So, quote, consider another city. This is Texas' speech in New York hit back at the criticism he's faced for busing thousands of asylum seekers there. Take a listen.
The city of New York and the state of New York are dealing with. It's caused by one person, Joe Biden. Joe Biden can flip that switch any day and stop New York from having to deal with the consequences of an open border.
Now, along with those flyers, the governor of New York is going on TV telling migrants, hey, listen, no matter what you do, you can come to America, but don't come to New York. Quote, go somewhere else.
We have to let the word out that when you come to New York, we're not going to have more hotel rooms. We don't have capacity. So we have to also message properly that we're at our limit. If you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else. But the smarter thing is to apply for asylum before you leave your country.
Now listen, people, we have to think about this rationally. New York literally asked for this. They asked for it. They begged for migrants to come. Now they are begging for them to leave. The irony of the situation is extraordinary. As Morpheus said in The Matrix,
fate, it seems, is not without a sense of irony.
See, the fate of New York is in the hands of the people who let the narratives of open borders win over common sense and reason. Now they have to live in a matrix that they created. And now they found out that reasonable border policy isn't racist, but necessary for everyone's safety, security, and well-being. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you next time. Peace.